Cheers, my little guzzlers. You might think, by the way, that I'm drinking a Moscow Mule. You'd be wrong. Well, sort of wrong. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But what we're going to make tonight is Southern style baked chicken and rice. Okay, so we're going to have some chicken thighs, marinated, baked in the oven, crispy skin. It's got skin on these thighs. And we're going to have that accompanied by mushroom rice. So that's what we're up to today. So let's get started. I've got a variety of things here. I'll go through them as we do them. So the first thing we're going to do is prepare the marinade for the chicken, and then it will be going in the oven. So you need to put your oven on and get that up to 200. You'll want something like that to put it in. You'll want a dish to do your mushrooms in, and you'll want a tray that we're going to oven bake the rice in. Okay, so cheers. So let's prepare the chicken. We'll get the chicken in, and then I'll tell you what I'm drinking, and we'll start on the rest of it. So I want a bowl to do it in. Now previously I said what you could do is you could do it in there, but it's going to be a little bit tricky to do that in there. So I'm going to get a bowl dirty. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fried chickens. So some of them chickens have got 3 fries. So what we're going to put in here is a tablespoon of fresh ground black pepper, a tablespoon of thyme, dried thyme, a tablespoon of garlic powder, a tablespoon of onion powder. This is actually onion salt because I don't think you can get onion powder. Well, I've never come across it. A tablespoon of dried oregano, a tablespoon of dried parsley, and then a tablespoon-ish of dried chili flakes. Complete seeds in that one. And then I've got half a chicken stock cube. Okay, so in that goes. And then we want 2 tablespoons of oil. So 1, 2. So that is going to be our mix, okay? And then we're going to want our thighs, and we're going to want our pan. And I'm going to put a glove on for this bit because it's messy. So like I say, this is a sort of southern style chicken dish. So I'm going to use one of them thighs to try and get that mixed together. And actually, well, really, almost put the food in there then. I'm going to put a little bit more oil in that. Okay. Because we do want the chicken to sort of semi-fry in it. And with all that stuff in there that's coming out a bit dry. Okay. So we want to get the whole of this chicken coated. So I'm chucking it all in to begin with. And then what we'll do is get our hands in. That's why I've got my glove on. Okay. And I want to make sure it's all coated all over with that nice oily herb and spice mix. See? Do 2 things at once. That's nice. Tell you what that is in a minute. So when we've got that all nicely coated, we take our pan, and the first thing we do is we take our chicken and we lay it down in that pan, skin side down. Okay, so I'm just going to get that in there. So that's nicely arranged in there. I'm going to open the oven up, shove that in the oven, and that's going to go in there for at least 45 minutes. Okay, so then we're going to get on with the rest of it. So before we do that, what am I drinking then? Well, I'm drinking a Mamie Taylor, or a Mamie Taylor, okay? Which, oh, sorry, that isn't the beer, or the booze. But this is actually like a oh, I can't say the bloody word now. It's what came from a Moscow Mule. Well, a Moscow Mule is basically, it's the same sort of thing. It's sort of like a shot, something like a whiskey and sort of ginger ale or something like that. And that's essentially what we've got here. We've got a double measure Scotch, ordinary Scotch bells. It's got half a measure of lime juice, and then it's topped up with ginger ale. And very refreshing it is. So, anyway, the chicken's in. The next thing we've got to do is get the rice in. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit more about my Mamie Taylor in a minute, but for this bit you're going to want your tray that you're going to cook the rice in. So what we're going to need is some rice. I've got about 350-ish grams of rice. Okay, I'm going to chuck that in there. Get rid of that. Okay, and to that we're going to add 1 small onion, finely chopped, and some cut garlic. Up to you how much garlic you want to put in it. We're going to put that through the old garlic crusher. Okay, so I'm just going to chop that onion, and I'll tell you a little bit about the Mamie Taylor. So the Mamie Taylor, or Mamie Taylor, is actually named after an opera singer, a light opera singer and actress. Sort of, I was going to say turn of the century, but turn of the last century now, isn't it? In America, and she was quite, well known and everything else at the time, although she's sort of fallen into obscurity now, you might say, apart from the name of the drink. Her first name was Mamie, M-A-Y-M-E, and she had gone on a little cruise on Lake Ontario. Okay, nice day, nice sunny hot day, and when she sort of arrived back at the dock, as it were, by the hotel, Miss Taylor remarked she was overheating, and she would very much like a refreshing claret and lemonade, which at the time was the sort of like the cooling drink everybody wanted. By the way, so I've chopped that onion up and I'm chucking that into there. Okay, with that rice. So anyway, she asked the bartender of the hotel for this lovely, refreshing, cooling claret and lemonade. Well, whether he just didn't have any or he chose to be a bit different, what he did instead was he basically gave her a Scotch and ginger ale with a bit of ice and said, there you go, have that. Well, she drank it and she said, I'm not sure about this. She said, put me a little bit of lemon peel in it, take the edge off. So he put a little bit of lemon peel in it, and she remarked how wonderfully refreshing it was and how lovely it was. So in goes that garlic. So she gets to try out the first of what was eventually named after her. Right, so that's gone in there. Now we're now going to add the other half of the chicken stock cube. Okay, in that goes, and we want some butter. Where are we? About 2 tablespoons of butter. So anyway, other people back at the hotel noticed this drink, and they obviously knew who she was, and there you go, about 2 tablespoons-ish of butter. I'll keep that knife because we're going to want some more in a bit. Okay, we want some black pepper, So some of the other guests said, what's that? That looks intriguing. What's that drink? And the bartender, because at the time it was quite fashionable to name drinks after famous people or famous songs, whatever, went, oh, that's a Mamie Taylor. However, when he wrote it down, he spelt it M-A-I-M-E. And that's how what it's known was spelt right now. And I've all about to run out, so I'm going to make myself another one. And then we'll finish off the rice and I'll finish off the story. So, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of paprika. I will do if it will come out. And then I've got over here 700 mils approximately of chicken stock. Okay, so I'm just now going to pour that in, and we're just going to give that a little bit of a mix around. That is going to go in the oven, but before we do, we're going to cover it with some foil. Make sure we get the foil all nicely wrapped around it, and we're going to shove that in the oven. So, rice is in, the meat's doing. All we're going to do now is prepare our mushrooms, our buttery mushrooms, which are going to go in the rice. So I was just finishing off telling you about that. So it became very popular because obviously everybody wanted to try it, because famous opera singer, actress, sort of has sort of invented it, if you like. And it took off everywhere, all over the States. And then of course Prohibition happened, because this is about 1909 this was invented. Okay, but then Prohibition came along and that sort of curtailed everything. And then once everything opened up again and you could start drinking again, no one really bothered with it. And so it's just sort of fell by the wayside. And it's sort of developed into the Moscow Mule. So there you go. That's the story of the Mamie Taylor. Cheers. So, a final thing we've got to prepare, and we don't really need to rush to do that just yet, because we're going to cook the mushrooms and then we'll add them to the rice when the rice is cooked. But the chicken's going to take a little bit longer yet, at least 30 minutes, and then we're going to flip it because you want to crispen the skin off. So it's up to you what you want. I mean, you don't even have to put mushrooms in if you don't like, but I like mushrooms. So I've got a mixture of chestnut mushrooms and just ordinary plain mushrooms. So all we're going to do with them, give them a quick wipe, and then we're just going to slice them up. Like I say, you don't have to put mushrooms in at all. You can just have that rice like it is. You're going to want some chives, which we're going to chop up, and you're going to want some more garlic, which we're going to add into it. And we're going to cook it in butter, but we'll be adding a little bit of oil. Oh, excuse me. That's the ginger ale. We're going to add a little bit more because obviously you don't want to burn the butter. And so essentially, that's it for a moment. Okay, like I say, I'm going to chop the mushrooms, I'm going to chop the chives ready, but I don't really want to start doing the mushrooms until that chicken's almost done. So that's 45 minutes up. That chicken is looking good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that over now. Okay, and then it's going to go back in the oven, and we want to try and, although that's been sort of skin side down, obviously we want to just crispen that up in the heat of the oven. Will I turn that one or not? I can't remember if I turn that one over or not. Okay, ow, touch that pan in. So I've turned that chicken over. That's going to go back in, and then we'll get on cooking the mushrooms. Oh, and I think I might need another drink. Right, so I'll put some heat on the pan, and now we want about 2 tablespoons or so of butter. Remember, this is buttery mushrooms, so you can afford to be generous. And we're also going to add a little amount of oil, because that will help stop that butter melting. So we're just going to melt that down. I've got my onions, I've got my mushrooms sliced, I've got my chives chopped, I've got my garlic peeled. So what we're going to do is, while that butter's melting, I'm just going to get my garlic in my pan. So that's mainly melted down. I'm going to now chuck my mushrooms in there, and we're now just going to cook them on about a medium heat until they're all nicely cooked together. Let me get a spoon to do it with. Get a wooden spoon. Okay, so we're waiting on the chicken to crispen up. The rice is just about done. I'll check it again in a minute. If it's done, we'll bring it out and we just leave it on the side here, keeping it warm with the foil on. Now obviously this is for a lot more than just 2 of us, which means there will be some leftovers for tomorrow, for Ron. So I'm making some for Ron. I'll make Ron. Right, so I'm just going to cook these through. Okay, and I'll show you when we're ready to chuck it in the rice. So the mushrooms are almost there. So what I'm going to do now is going to season it with a bit of pepper, a bit of salt, and then those fresh chopped chives, in they go. And I'm just going to give them a mix together for a few minutes, and then we'll be adding it to the rice. Take the rice out, the rice is done. Okay. So, like I said, mushrooms are optional. But I like mushrooms. So we've got mushrooms. So, turn that heat off of that. Move that tray a bit. Let's get that foil off of there. And you can see there, that rice is done. So all we're going to do is just going to fluff this up a bit. Now I'm just going to tip all that lovely buttery mushroom goodness into the rice. Let's get that out of the way. And we're just then going to mix these together. So that is our mushroom rice ready to go. So we're just about at the point of serving now. So I'm just going to get this mixed together. I've got my plates out. I've got my knife and fork out. And like I say, there's plenty here. This is obviously for more than just 2 of us, but there's plenty of leftovers for tomorrow. So let me just get organised, and we'll get the chicken and we'll get the rice and we'll get tasting. So that's me chicken. Where's my things gone? Out the oven. So let's get a bit of chicken on there. So we've got our mushroom rice. Check that out. That's a meal on its own. Mushroom rice. Very tasty. So let's break into that chicken. Chicken nice and moist inside. Okay, there we go. Steaming away. Burn my mouth now. That's the trouble trying to eat one-handed. Chicken very nice. Not too dry, nice and moist. So that's your southern style baked chicken and rice. I'm now going to go and enjoy that.